Right. Hello, everyone. Let me just move this across a little bit. And maybe I can move that up here out of the way and just open up the chat and the Q&A. There we go. Good afternoon if you're in the UK or Europe. Good morning if you're dialing in from the US. And welcome to this week's Koala Wednesday webinar. If this is the first of your Koala Wednesday webinars, then welcome. We come together for an hour every Wednesday, and it gives us an opportunity to talk about one topic, one subject, something that's going on in the world of AI, to help keep you on top of things. It also gives you an opportunity to ask your questions. It's such a fast-moving space, and this gives us time to just slow down and think about things. And so if this is your first time in a Zoom webinar, you'll probably see down at the bottom or up at the top of your screen, there's a Q&A bar where you can ask questions. There's also a chat bar, and I've got them up on my top of my screen, and I'll try and keep an eye on them. And if not, Caitlin, who's on the call as well, will keep me honest and point me in the right direction. But just know that I'm keeping an eye on those. So each week we go through the same sort of three-step structure. I'm going to spend probably 30 minutes or so talking about our main topic, which is about building your first AI team member. And we're going to do a live demo of building out an agent. Then we'll talk a little bit about AI in the news. There is so much happening each week, and we find it hard to keep on top of it, and we're doing it 24/7. So for anyone that's doing another role, you're so busy doing your job, then to keep on top of things is super hard. And so we filter out some of the most important releases and updates that we think are going to be useful for you in your working environment. And then we've got some time for some Q&A. So yes, this comes at the end, but if you've got questions about anything as we're going through, then just fire them into the chat or the Q&A. Don't wait until the end. And these questions can be about anything. Maybe it is about the agent that I'm going to build out, but you might have a question about, a prompt that you're trying to build or an app that you're trying to design. Throw anything. We hope that over time, this will become a safe place, and it's so lovely to see many of the same faces popping up each week. So with that, we're going to get into our main topic. What I love about doing this every Wednesday and doing it live is that we don't prepare these sort of demos. I'm going to build stuff live. And so when Claude has an outage, I'm like having a little bit of a panic attack at half an hour before. And as has happened, there is an outage about an hour ago, which they are fixing. And so I'm hoping that as we get into the live sort of demo and build bit, that Claude is going to behave. But I wanted to address that because there have been a few Claude outages over the past few weeks. And the reason is they are experiencing insane demand that is happening. Fish are jumping into the boat, to use that analogy. What you can see on the left, this is kind of publicly disclosed. Obviously, they're sort of private companies, but they disclose where they are. What you can see here is that only a year ago, OpenAI was by far away the leader, closing in on 10 billion of revenue, and Anthropic was pretty much, nowhere, you'd say, in comparison, 1 billion or so. But in the last 6 months, Anthropic's revenue is going near vertical as enterprises, mainly, because that's their focus, are throwing money at Anthropic. I'm going to show you a chart later on in AI in the news where I'm going to show you what split of new business Anthropic is getting. But look at this tweet on the right. I have to say, I've just grabbed this quickly before, so I can't confirm exactly who Brad Gerstner is, but he must be an investor or someone that's linked into Anthropic, because he's saying we had a $6 billion month out of Anthropic in February, and it was only a 28-day month. That's more revenue than the annual revenue of Databricks and Snowflake, two of the greatest software businesses out there. So a month that was more than the annual revenue of those companies that have been around. So the pace of growth in Anthropic is absolutely outstanding, and that is as their product teams talk about on X feeding into some of these outages. But let's see how we go. Let me have a quick flick across. Okay, errors, errors, errors. Wish me luck. So, what we're going to look at today is going to feed on from what we were talking about in last week's webinar when I talked about our Claude Cowork setup. And I talked about how I had built out a number of agents, kind of personas that related to individuals that I've worked with in the past. So Rosalie, my digital executive assistant, my CRO, my CFO, my CPO, and then a number of people that are driving different parts of our business. And just to be clear, these are digital agents that I've built that represent the humans that I've worked with in the past. And so that kind of teed up the question of like, okay, well, Charlie, you've demoed Rosalie, you've demoed John, the CRO, but how do I go about actually building one of these? What's the process that we went through in order to get to that? And that's what I'm going to walk you through today. Now, I want to touch on sort of levels of autonomy so that you can get a feel for what we're building. And this will come into the process that we're going to go through. All of these agents that I build start at layer one. And so layer one is, whilst I'm giving it a name and I'm giving it a role, it's actually running on my laptop. And when one of these agents sends an email or drafts an email, it's my Gmail. And so it's actually coming from Charlie. When they send a Slack message, it's coming from my Slack. So they're kind of taking on my personality. You could think of an executive assistant who has delegated access to someone's email or calendar. And that's really where layer one is. And this is where I start them. The next step up is to graduate them and give them some independence. A few weeks back, you may have been on our webinar and we talked about Carolina, who is Koala's AI project manager. And so Carolina is at layer two. So she lives in a Vercel sandbox up in the cloud. She has her own email address, carolina at koala.com. She's got her own Slack account. And anyone in the Koala team can communicate with Carolina and she'll respond and she's got access to all of our systems. So she's independent, but she's still internal. And that's where we're just testing and checking that Carolina behaves and doesn't go rogue. And then layer three, which is where we want to sort of promote all of these to, is that they become independent and external. So in Carolina's example, yes, our project team can communicate with Carolina, but what we really want is that we can invite Carolina to the project launch workshop, that she's added into the calendar invites, and that our clients can email Carolina and say, what's going on with this project? What's the latest update on this? Can you give me a status update? And that's really where we want to get to, not just for Carolina, but for all of our delivery related agents. So this is the process. And what I'm going to walk you through is how do we start building an agent at level one. And what we're going to be building today is Joshua, a solution architect. So I worked with a fantastic Salesforce solution architect called Joshua, very good friends to this day. He doesn't know I'm going to build his digital hymn now, but I'll send him this webinar afterwards. He may be happy, he might not, I don't know. But as a solution architect, you work alongside the sales team. You spend time with clients in a pre-sales environment, and your role is to sort of understand what they're trying to do and how do we turn that into something that we can build and service them with, and how do we turn that into a project and a proposal and a statement of work. So what we're going to be using is a skill that I have built called Agent Builder. We're going to use this live in a minute, but for anyone that hasn't been on the previous few weeks, you might not know what a skill is. So let's just quickly explain that. A skill is a construct that was invented by Anthropic and Claude. They've turned it into a an open standard. So skills was just launched about 10 days ago into ChatGPT. We expect to see it roll out in things like Gemini and other tools as well. And it's really a way of doing something. You've come up with a standard operating procedure or a process or a workflow, and you define that in words, like you can see on the right here. You describe how this thing works, and then Claude can use it to repeat that exercise in future. So we're going to use the agent builder in a minute to build Joshua. Now, the agent builder is going to interview me about 8 sort of key areas of Joshua's persona and personality. So, firstly, like what's the role of Joshua? What's he have to do? What is a solution architect, and what are we asking for him to do? What are his operational jobs? So the things that we want him to do. We want him to create a statement of work. We want him to run discovery. We want him to build out a resource plan. We want him to build an integration architecture. What are the things that we want him to do? The inputs and outputs. So who's going to communicate with Joshua? Like, is this coming from me as a human? Is it coming from clients? Is it coming from other members of the team? Maybe Joshua does some things of his own accord. On a Monday morning, he's going to run a status update on all of the opportunities that he's working on. What are his outputs? He sends emails out. He sends Slack notes. Maybe he updates HubSpot with the solution architecture that he has designed. How does he measure what good looks like? Is it the percentage of deals that close one? Is it the closeness of the margin that he estimates to how the actual delivery margin ends up? How do we know if Joshua has done a good job or not? The integration model. So if Joshua was a human, Joshua would have access to email. Joshua would have access to a calendar. Joshua would be in Slack. Joshua would have access to HubSpot. Joshua would have access to Granola, which is our call transcription tool. So all of the things that if the human needs access to that, we probably need to give digital Joshua access to that as well. Knowledge and onboarding. What does Joshua need to know in order to do a good job? Well, at Koala, we have the Koala way. Like this is our methodology for doing delivery. This is how we're going to generate a statement of work or a proposal. These are the systems and tools that we use, Claude, ChatGPT. These are all of the things that human Joshua would need, and we need agent Joshua to know that as well. Then we get into a bit of the technical specification, and this is why I wanted to spend a bit of time earlier talking about layer 1, layer 2, and layer 3. So where do we want Joshua to be? And here is layer 1. And then a few more about these success metrics. So for me personally, how am I going to know that this thing is working? So the agent builder skill has got all of this in it. And so let me dive across now and let's hope. Let's hope. So I'm here in my Cowork. Claude Cowork is kind of an agentic tool. It's not optimized for chat. It's optimized for doing the work. And I'm in my Koala folder here. And I'm just going to say, hey, Claude, can we use the agent builder skill? I want some help building out Joshua, who is going to be a digital solution architect that we are going to work with here at Koala. So this then opens up Cowork, working on it. All right, fingers crossed we're working. So what you can see here is that because I said we want to use the agent builder skill, Claude has opened up the agent builder skill. And my analogy for this, for anyone that was watching movies in the 90s and watched The Matrix, you might remember in the first Matrix film where Neo suddenly loads up Kung Fu and he's like, oh, I know Kung Fu. And so this is what it's like when Claude loads up a skill. launched the agent builder skill, read the agent definition interview guide. Ah, I know Kung Fu. Great, let's design Joshua. Here's how this works in two phases. So, phase one, the agent definition. We're going to work through who Joshua is, what he does, what systems he touches, and how he operates. I'll ask one to two questions at a time in a conversational style. Phase two is the plugin architecture. Now we're going to build all of this into a plugin that we could then use in Claude. So let's start with the basics. You said Joshua is a digital solution architect. What's the one sentence description of what he does at Koala and who's he primarily working with? Just as a reminder, if this is your first time, I use Whisper Flow all the time. I never type. So with Whisper Flow, it's like a free download onto your Mac or your Windows machine. And all I do is I press my function key and then I talk. And then when I let go of it, it puts all of the words there. It's fantastic and it's just way faster than typing. Okay, so what's the one sentence description of what he does at Koala? Okay, so I am kind of the lead sort of founder-led sales person here at Koala, and so I spend a lot of time talking to clients about what they're trying to do, about sort of the high-level vision. Often they're trying to build something, some kind of tool or app or rollout or skills. And what I want Joshua to do is to listen to those meetings, be in those meetings, listen to the call transcriptions. And then Joshua's going to have knowledge of the systems and tools and the ways of working. And I want him to take that and then to turn it into a viable solution, which we can then scope out and then turn into an LOE, a level of effort that could be turned into an actual project. And this is going to help me to be able to build out a proposal or a range of proposals that we can go back to the client with. He's primarily going to work with me at the moment as the founding salesperson. But as we bring on a sales team, then Joshua would support both all of the other sellers and maybe some human solution architects if we were to bring those on. That's why I use Whisper Flow. I'm never typing that. And if I was going to type, I certainly wouldn't write all of that. And so I'm able to provide much more context to Claude because I'm talking. Good. That's a really clear starting point. Joshua is essentially the bridge between client has a vision and here's a buildable, scopable solution. Let me dig into a couple of things on section one before we move on. Communication style. Given Joshua is producing technical solution designs that you'll then use in proposals, how should he communicate? I'm thinking he needs two modes, one that's internal and technical, and one that's client ready. Is that right, or do you see it differently? And then on boundaries, what decisions can Joshua make on his own? For example, can he recommend specific technology choices? Or this should be a Claude skill. Does he need to flag those as options? Okay. So yeah, on the communication style, right now, Joshua's going to be a kind of level one. And so just sort of internal. So he's going to communicate with me and not directly be exposed to the client. In future, we absolutely want to invite Joshua to these initial scoping meetings. And he's going to have his own email account. He'll have his own Slack and he will have access to the granola notes. So that will be, his insight. He may even be able to interact in those meetings. But for now, you can sort of consider him to be my kind of sidekick. In terms of the boundaries, we absolutely want Joshua to make technology decisions. So later on, when we talk about knowledge, we're going to give him a bit of context about the types of technologies and platforms that we use. But he should be able to use web search to go and validate, current recommendations and requirements, and to challenge my thinking. He's going to know more than I do about the tech, so he should feel confident to push back. Just on that note, I always tell these agents they know more than me because they do. They've got access to all of this knowledge. They've got way more pre-training than I've got. So I don't want them to be sycophantic and say, oh, yes, Charlie, yes, to whatever you say, Charlie. I want them to say, no, you're wrong, and here's why, and I've got the evidence. Great, really clear picture forming. So Joshua is your technical right hand. He knows the tech better than you do, should act like it, internal only for now. Let me catch what I'm hearing on boundaries. Yeah, excellent. What he can't do yet, communicate directly with clients, commit to timelines or pricing, or make commercial decisions. Does that sound right? Would you adjust those boundaries? He can't communicate directly with clients, commit to timelines. Yeah. So at the moment, you're exactly right. I'm the one that's interfacing with the client. I just want Joshua to support me and to be the technical sort of insight on that. Who does Joshua interact with besides you? I'm thinking about the handoff chain. So Joshua will also interact with other members of our delivery team. I won't give names because we're on a webinar, but our operations director, our project managers, and individual consultants because they will be the ones that are implementing this. Indirectly, Joshua will also interact with Mark, who is our digital CFO, and Mark handles all margin discussions on upcoming deals. So he might call Mark as a skill. Question from Andy. How much of this is a demo for our sake, or are you letting us watch you at real work? And these prompts and builds will actually create the Joshua role, which you go on to use at Koala. 100%, I'm actually doing work and you're watching me. So this is exactly the process that I go through, and I need a Joshua. So this is very much live rather than being a demo. Got it. So the handoff chain is you've got a client conversation, Joshua produces a solution design, then it flows two ways to the delivery team. That's a nice clean model, and Mark interaction is interesting. Joshua could invoke Mark's financial analysis skill. So Claude knows that Mark's got a financial analysis skill to check, can we deliver this profitably? So let's move on to section two, operational jobs. This is where we figure out what Joshua actually does day to day. I think there's two main patterns here. First, the triggered work. You have a client call and he processes it. And the second is, are there any autonomous work that you want Joshua doing? So yeah, I think the primary pattern is going to be this triggered work. It's going to be me tagging Joshua. I've just had this meeting, and most likely that's going to be me pointing Joshua to Granola call transcription, which would have all of those meeting notes in it. Looking at my email, maybe I'm going to feed him, I don't know, some operating procedures or any kind of documents that the client has provided to us. So it's more kind of inbound. When I think about the autonomous work, I could imagine on a Friday afternoon, 4 o'clock, Joshua sends me a Slack message basically saying if he's missing something or what's the plan for next week. So a bit of a sort of status update. If he needs something that he's not got that is slowing down his work, that could be quite helpful. Because what comes out of this is just written text. It's going to become a skill or a series of skills that are in a plugin. Um, I'm not too worried about like putting this all in concrete. Like this is like once we built this, we can't change it. Because once I start working with Joshua, no doubt I'll come up with things of different interactions. So this is really about getting like 60% there, and then I'm happy with it, and then we can learn from it. Good. So the primary workflow is clear. You tag Joshua. The Friday 4 p.m. autonomous check is a nice touch. Thank you very much. Excellent. Okay, what does the finished product look like when Joshua has done his job on a single client conversation? So this is where it gets interesting, and Claude, I take a bit of your judgment. But when I think about what human Joshua used to do and still does, human Joshua would maybe come up with some alternative approaches to share with the client. You could do this, you could do that. There's a bit of this is what we heard, and this is what your ideal future state is. There was a kind of solution architecture, maybe some graphics, some sort of diagrams, maybe a flow chart of the process, and then maybe with some technical integration scenarios as well. We need to integrate into Salesforce. We need to integrate into email, something like that. And then the key thing was what we used to call an LOE, a level of effort. So this is what this project looks like. This is how long it's going to run for. These are the different roles. This is how much that role needs to be assigned. And really, that was coming up with what the cost model was to deliver this so that we could then work out what we're going to provide as a proposal to our client. But you may suggest some other things as well. But that was really the core of it. So Joshua's output from processing a single client conversation, a multi-layered deliverable, requirements and vision, solution options, level of effort. Here's where I want to push you a bit. That's a lot of output from a single invocation. A human SAO might take 2 to 3 days to produce all of that. So this is really good. And just to say, in my overall koala instructions over here, I tell Claude to push back and challenge me. I don't want Claude to just go, that's great. And this is Claude pushing back, that's not quite right. My instinct is Joshua processes the call and produces 1 to 2. Yeah, this is a really good point. And actually, we want to give Joshua the ability to push back and say, I need more information, and to provide questions back to me. And actually, it may be a very iterative approach where I'm coming back with more information. So let's definitely build that in, that it's not a kind of one and done each time. Exactly right. Quick question there from Val. Thank you. Like, how often do you update the Claude.md and instructions or make adjustments? Um, I'd say I'd say fairly regularly. And it's not necessarily that I go just to show you, I'll just click on this just so that you can see what is the instructions. This is just a file in my Cowork that describes how Claude should interact with me in this folder. And it's not that I'm going in here and changing this, but as I'm having conversations with Claude, if there's anything that I think, I wish you knew that, I wish you knew that, then I'm just at the end of the conversation, I'm saying, can you go and update the Claude.md to incorporate that? And then Claude goes and updates it. But yeah, quite regularly, I'd say 2 or 3 times a week, I'm either asking it to update this Claude.md or add new ones in the overall directory. Great. So this is sort of the transactions. Good. I've got a solid picture of sections 1 and 2. Let's move to section 3, inputs and outputs. So we've already touched on the main inputs, granola, client documents, emails, but I want to get specific. Beyond the call transcripts, what other client materials does Joshua typically need? Thinking like existing system architecture diagrams, API documentation, org charts, process maps. Yeah, so often we'll take whatever we can get. Many clients have not mapped out a process and they haven't got a lot of thinking around this. And so we're actually running workshops to get this kind of information. So we may well have photos, screenshots of whiteboards or flip charts where we've been running a live consulting engagement with the client to get that information. But it tends to be a bit more kind of ad hoc like that, rather than having lots of structured content. But yeah, a lot of it is, stuff that comes on an email. It might be a PDF. It might be some examples of typical inputs, things like that. Robin, firstly, great to see you, and we must catch up. It's brilliant to see you on the call. Thank you. Would it be possible for Claude to automatically update the MD file based on continuous learning from all the interactions going on, like a self-learning entity? It could be possible. It could be possible. I'll touch on if we've got time towards the end of actually building Joshua these scheduled tasks up at the top here. So it is possible for Claude to sort of self-run. I'd probably just want to have a think about. I like being the one that's sort of telling Claude, this is what I want you to change. But yeah, there's no reason why it couldn't sort of self do that by looking at other conversations. I would also add that they launched a thing called Memory on Friday, and it's actually learning as it goes anyway. And so I'll see if I can get a chance to just show you that in the background at the end as well. So conscious of time, half an hour, and we're halfway through. We're a bit past halfway through. I'll speed it up so that we get to the end anyway, regardless. Let me capture the output side now. So requirements document, solution options, architecture visuals, and level of effort. Two questions. Where do these outputs live? I'm thinking each client engagement gets a folder under client's client name with the solution design docs. Is that right? So yes, it is. On the visuals, how important are the polished diagrams at this stage? So yes, as you'll see in the Koala directory, we've got a client's directory and a client name, and you can put them in there. Don't go and have a look at that because we're on a demo, so I don't want you showing what's in there. And in terms of the visuals, yeah, just good enough is fine because what we'll probably start doing is actually designing these up, more formally. So Joshua doesn't actually need to come up with proper sort of flow charts and things like that. I'm always demoing in my actual Claude because it's so finely tuned to the way that I'm working. I've tried before to set up a demo environment and it just doesn't work because it hasn't got any of the context about the way that I'm working and the way that I'm thinking. But it does keep the heart rate going nicely when you're demoing live. So to summarize that, great. Okay. Section 4, quality standards. This is about how good Joshua's work needs to be and when he should be confident versus cautious. Given Joshua is internal only right now, you're reviewing everything. Where does Joshua need to be most careful? Um, I think that the main thing is just making sure that we are paying close attention to any of the inputs that we're getting from the client. We ultimately want to make sure that probably 80% of the solutions that Joshua is coming up with is either a native Claude or native ChatGPT, and we only go outside of that towards anything custom if we really can't do it in the core platform. And this is the main thing that I'll just be keeping an eye on Joshua, that he's not getting a bit trigger happy on trying to build something custom. But you're exactly correct. Because everything is coming through me, I'm less worried. I'm going to be validating everything that he comes up with as an LOE and will improve Joshua over time if there's any issues. What I'm going to do, and just going to come back to sort of Andy's question earlier on about how much of this is sort of demo material versus me doing it really. And I am doing it really, but I'm going to start accelerating a little bit. And you can see that I'm going quite fast. I would want to spend a bit more time on this and really thinking about it. But I really want to get to us having built Joshua. And so I will go a little bit faster on some of these things. So, because I think you've got the idea of me having a chat with Claude now. So integration model. Yeah, I think we've touched on this. HubSpot, Granola, email, Slack. Did I say HubSpot? I think I said HubSpot, Google Drive. Yeah, all of these things. Yeah, so the typical flow is you say, Joshua, process the Acme call from this morning. He goes and finds the Granola transcript himself. That's great. Section 5, knowledge and onboarding. And you flagged this one as important. Joshua needs to know these things. So yes, I'm going to inject Joshua with all of the knowledge about the Koala Way, which is our methodology, about how we build LOEs, about some of the processes and systems. Now, I've got a number of Google Docs that include this information. We're not going to use that now. So if we can just put a pin in that in our agent definition, that Charlie will be providing a number of these documents, and we'll add them as references and assets that go into the skills that Joshua is going to use. Great knowledge to be provided. Right, let's race through the remaining six sections since we've already touched on most of these. Joshua runs in Cowork, primarily used by you with both the triggered work and the scheduled Friday 4 p.m. check-in. He needs web search. Yeah, great, excellent. And section six, success metrics. How will you know Joshua is working well? My instinct is the key metric is does the solution design hold up when it hits delivery? Yeah, on the success metrics, spot on. The key thing is, do Joshua's solutions be the thing that we are delivering? And importantly, how accurate are his LOEs? Is our pre-sales estimated margin close to what the delivery margin is? And if not, what do we need to do to go back to coach Joshua to get more accurate on that? And I think ultimately, customer experience. I'm talking to you on the webinar now, not to Claude, but customer experience. I think is the real thing. If customers are getting a design super quickly, it's exactly what they need, and our delivery team are able to deliver it, then that's ultimately what we want. Good. I think we've covered all eight sections. Let me do a quick recap before I write the agent definition. So here it is. I'm not going to reread that for now. No, that's great. Let's move on, and we can now create that full definition, and then we can move on to the plugin architecture. So let me grab the templates. So again, thinking about the Matrix and Neo, Claude is now just loading up the templates. It didn't need to load them up earlier because we were doing the interview. And so it only loads up in a skill what it needs at each specific time. So now it's uploaded those and it's updating its task list. So we've written the agent definition document. And so let me go. No, that's this is the interview. No, it's writing it now. Writing the agent definition. And for those of you that have not been in Cowork before, this is what is different compared to chat. It is not just coming back with a chat. It is building out a task list and it is working through these things. It is reading documents. It is creating documents. It is navigating around my laptop. So it is really acting as an agent and getting work done. So it's now writing this agent definition. Joshua's got to do a lot of stuff. And this agent definition is following a template that is in the agent builder skill. So I've told it exactly what I want it to look like and the different sections for each of those eight areas that we worked through. I always find it quite funny because like now, especially when you're on a live webinar, you're like, oh, this is taking a long time. You imagine how long this would take without this? This would be like, 5 weeks of work to come up with a human job description, and it wouldn't be as well articulated as what Claude is writing now. And the way that this agent builder is designed is this kind of two-step process. So step one is just come up with this definition, and that is then the source material for the second part, which is to actually build it. And I think whenever you're building skills, whether it's building out an agent or whether it is any kind of process is to break it down into its constituent parts. So there's no point worrying about how we're going to build Joshua if we haven't worked out who Joshua is and what Joshua needs to do. So step one, build the agent definition. And so here's this document. Now it's super long. This is what Joshua does. This is how he works. His role identity, his persona and voice, boundaries, triggers, operational jobs, triggered tasks, handoffs, all of this stuff that came from our conversation, inputs and outputs, outputs produced and where they need to go, quality standards, lovely, communication quality, super long document and really well thought through. Downstream agents. I talked to Claude about Mark, the digital CFO, but I didn't mention the proposal builder. But Claude knows we've got a proposal builder. I didn't mention Deirdre, the resource planner, but Claude knows we've got Deirdre. And this is where I love Claude so much. It's like it's pulling in things that I haven't even mentioned because it's got this context in Cowork and in the folder that I'm working in. So here we go. Right, based on everything we discussed, here's how I'd structure the Joshua plugin. Let me walk through my thinking. One, we need a skill is solution processing, interactive. Skill two, weekly status. On agents, so there's a bit about this. So I'm just going to say, great. Can you move on? Let me know. Are we going to use the skill creator to build that first skill, which is the solution processing? The solution processing skill, and let me know if you need any more information to get going with that. So Claude has a couple of pre-built skills in it that help it to build this kind of stuff. So one is called the skill creator skill. And so knowing that exists is useful to know. And another one is the create Cowork plugin skill. And so these things work in tandem. The skill creator builds the skills. And then once you've built the two skills, the plugin then wraps it all up. So what the agent builder is doing now is I've asked it to now define what that plugin is going to look like. So it's just writing the architecture for what it's going to build. And so you can imagine when Joshua is working, it's going to say writing solution architecture because we've taught it how to do the solution. But in this case, it's building this plugin architecture document. And hopefully this is not going to be as long as the agent definition because this is more just how these skills are going to come together. But again, like step by step, first step, define Joshua. Second step now, define what the plugin is going to look like and the different skills that are going to be in that. Third step, build the skills. Fourth step, build the plugin. And then you've got Joshua ready to go. And I'm going to make the executive decision that I'm going to keep going on this. There was some good AI in the news stuff, but we'll send that out in a follow-up because I want you to see the full process here. So here's this plugin architecture that the agent builder has just built. Plugin architecture, it's a bit of a summary, but we're going to build this plugin manifest. We're going to build these skills. This is what these skills need to do. This is the workflow for these skills. Skill number 2. Okay, so this is useful for Claude. You don't need to worry about what's in there. Great, both documents are written. Build order. Let's build the shared state reference. Okay, lovely. Let's crack on because we're going. Okay, let's build the skeleton first. I want to build the skills, build the plugin so that I can show them to the lovely people that are on the call, and then I'm going to come back to add the knowledge documents in later on. Skills can reference other skills. So in the agent builder skill, I say when we get to this point, you now need to use the skill creator skill. All a skill is context. And so you're just saying, go and load up this more context. So now it was launching the skill creator and it's now going to, so down here, you can see skill creator has been launched because Claude knows it needs to use that now to build the skill. Let me go and look at another skill for reference and then write Joshua's solution processing skill. What I hope you're seeing through this is that I'm not a coder. I'm not writing any code. What I know is what I want Joshua to do. And as long as you can, I was going to say, as long as you can type, but I'm not even typing. As long as you can talk, then you can build your own agent. You just have to have a good idea of what it is that you want that thing to do and to be able to answer some questions. And then through, as will be today, a 1 hour process, you're going to have built your own agent. And I'm gonna race it on once it gets. I'm just gonna get to build the first skill and put that into a plugin so that you can see the end result before we finish up today. And you just have to know that I'm gonna go back and add in the other skill afterwards. A skill at its heart is a skill.md file, and I'll show you that when they turn up. It is basically the description of what Joshua is going to do. And a skill can have multiple references, and this is where the knowledge documents will come in to support what Joshua is going to do. But it's just words, and it's just words that at a future time Claude will load up and be able to, communicate with or use as its knowledge, I should say. Okay, so here is the skill. This is the interactive solution architecture skill, solution processing. This is what it does. Now, in reality, I'm absolutely not taking this immediately and putting it into, production. I'm reading this. I want to go through it. I want to test a little bit before we go on. But I'm going to say, actually, just stop. Yeah, thanks for that. As we're on a live demo, I'm going to leave the second skill. So can you now use your Create Cowork plugin skill to package up that one skill into a plugin called Joshua, just so that we can see what that experience is like to then add it to our marketplace. So that's that second skill, the Create Cowork plugin, which is not very well documented, but once you know it's there, I'm using it a lot. So now I'm going to build and package the plugin. A plugin is just a wrapper around a few things, a number of skills. So I might have these two Joshua skills, and a plugin is kind of a wrapper around that. And you can share plugins around your organization. So you can either give them to certain people, or as I'm going to show you in a minute, you can add them into a marketplace to make sure that everyone in the company can access them. So the plugin is what I call Joshua. This is where the persona or the personality comes, is the plugin. And Joshua, the plugin, has got access to a number of skills which Joshua can use. Now let me copy the solution processing skill and create the reference placeholders and the README. You can see how Claude's ticking off the progress as we go. Now let me validate and package it. This is what the Create Cowork plugin is doing, is wrapping it up in the right format. Copied the Joshua plugin. Okay, so this is a plugin, Joshua. That Create Cowork plugin, it creates this JSON file that describes the plugin. It has created a couple of agents, so gathering the context about the deal. And then the skill, the solution processing skill is in here with the skill.md and some references, the Koala Way and platforms. So Claude has built all of this. And so now I'm going to save the plugin, manage the plugin. So here is Joshua. He's here. Right, digital solutions architect, and he's got one skill at the moment and one sub agent, context gatherer. Of course, once I've come back through this again, I will give him another skill and a bit of fine tweaking. So that is Joshua. He already exists. So now I'm going to come back to a new task. Hey, can I use the Joshua plugin to build a solution for a meeting that I've just been in? But I'm on a demo, so don't go to Granola and look at any previous notes. Just imagine that I've just had a session and just ask me a little bit about what this process is going to be. So thinking, absolutely. Let's walk through it. Joshua is your solution architect. Here's how the process works. Um, I'm not going to go through that, but can you just describe a little bit about the skills that the Joshua plugin has got access to, the solution architecture skill, and how it would work, just so that I can show you loading it into your context. One core skill, solution processing, is designed for the moment right after a client call. There we go. So that's 50 minutes or so. But what you've seen me go is through the whole process of explaining what I want Joshua to do. And now I can start talking to the Joshua plugin and it's going to do all of those things. Um, so there you go. Great question. And this is one that my wife asks me all the time. Charlie, how many hours a day do you talk to Claude? Some would say too much. But I talk to Claude a lot because it's just allowing me to accelerate the work that I'm doing just so much. And it's through the talking, not the typing. So yeah, great question. So there is building out the first your first agent. What you can see from that, no code involved. If you can talk, if you can type, you can build an agent. And what I will work out with Caitlin is how we can distribute the agent builder skill to you for those that were live on the webinar. And then you can load that up and have a go at using that yourselves. Thank you, Claude, for behaving as we went through that. So with 7 minutes to go, I will touch a little bit on AI in the news, although I won't be able to demo some of the things that that I was talking about. Number one, things are escalating very fast. As I showed you right at the top of the webinar, the revenue growth of these companies is just going through the roof. Any other company, you couldn't dream of that. OpenAI announced this week that they're going to double their workforce by the end of this year from 4,000 to 8,000. So whilst we're talking a lot about Claude, things are not slowing down at OpenAI either. They've got, the ear of most of the consumer market. This was an interesting chart that came out this week. Some of you may be signed up to Axios. It's quite a well-respected newsletter. And this was a bit of research from a company called Ramp, which shows the model of choice for a first-time enterprise customer. So when a company is starting to buy AI for the first time, what tool are they buying? And look at this switch from OpenAI a while back. I think with these. Okay, so these are months. So this has happened over the Christmas period. So this isn't even going back 2 or 3 years. This is going back like a couple of months. And I'm definitely seeing this. A year ago, all of our client projects, ChatGPT, because that's what people had heard of. And now Anthropic, so much. And a good question there from Robin, is this due to the US defense issue? I think some of that, really, it's like what we were talking about earlier on. They are nailing the enterprise use cases in a way that OpenAI just aren't. And so companies are clocking onto that. There was a bit of research that Anthropic put out this week. We'll share this link in the kind of the show notes afterwards. They researched 81,000 people using Claude, of course, about what they wanted from AI. A few things. I'm not going to go into the details of this given time, but what do people want out of AI? Well, it's really about work. It's professional excellence over some kind of, therapy or anything like that. It's like, I want to be good at my job and to do better at that. What has AI delivered on for these people? Well, productivity. I feel that I'm just way more effective as I am with my talking to Claude all of the time. What are they worried about? Unreliability. I'm worried that it's going to hallucinate. I'm worried that it's going to make up stuff. And so this is where the context and building these skills is so important, that you're not just having a one-shot chat with Claude, but it's got all of this access and context about what you're doing before you have a conversation. So we'll send you the link there. The two big updates that I wanted to announce to you, we've experienced one of them today, which is Claude Cowork projects. We were working in the Koala project. We were using all of the context about Koala so that when we were building Joshua, it knew everything. And so if you've got Claude and you've got Claude Desktop downloaded, then look for the Cowork tab, and then you're now going to see projects in the left-hand side. And this allows you to create a series of one folder, but subdirectories on your laptop. It's going to grow its own memory, to Robin's question earlier, as it goes. And this is the self-improving that you're going to experience as you use Cowork. Highly recommend it. Scheduled tasks, so Joshua will be doing his thing every 4 o'clock. And then just last night, this arrived in the team plan. I think last week it arrived for anyone on a pro or a max plan, but last night it arrived on a team plan, is a thing called Dispatch. If you are in the geeky world of AI like I am, you may have heard of what was originally ClaudeBot, then Maltbot, and now OpenClaw that was bought by OpenAI. A kind of independent agent that you can text and chat to with WhatsApp and so on. Claude have worked amazingly, or Anthropic have worked amazingly fast to basically rebuild most of that functionality in their own platform. And it's called Dispatch. And again, you're going to see it in Cowork. You'll see this Dispatch. And you do a little bit of sharing a QR code to connect your phone with Claude Mobile up to your laptop. And what I did this morning on my phone was say, hey, Claude, can you help me plan out today's Koala team meeting? We got a couple of new starters and I want to focus on the new service delivery catalog that we created at the weekend. And then so Claude replies back to me and you're like, oh, well, can't I do that on my mobile anyway? Well, the work is not actually happening on my mobile. The work is happening on my laptop. And my laptop has got access to the Koala project with all of the files and everything that is happening in this this directory. So the idea here is that either your laptop just stays awake, or increasingly people are getting Mac Minis where they're running a lot of this stuff. And now on your phone, on your iPad, you're now chatting to your digital agent, spinning up your Joshuas and your Brians and your Marks, wherever you are. And I think this is really moving forward to this kind of agentic platform. Right. Unfortunately, no time for Q&A. Yes, Steve, it is exactly like a remote control. Absolutely. No time for Q&A, although it's been wonderful to see some questions coming through as we've gone through today. I hope you found that valuable. Next week, we're going to get into just two specific products, Claude for Excel and Claude for PowerPoint. I'm going to show you how you can use those and get the two of them to interact. Specifically, how you can take an Excel and ask Claude to create a PowerPoint over in PowerPoint. Thank you very much. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.